You want to know why some people in this country still call the Civil War states' rights instead of what it actually was? Why they say it really wasn't about slavery? Why Confederate monuments are everywhere? It's not an accident, it was a strategy. And one of the architects was Mildred Rutherford and her little army of propagandists, the United Daughters of the Confederacy. They weren't just mourning the Confederacy, they were rewriting history to justify white supremacy. They made sure that losing the war didn't mean losing ideology. And they went after the next generation to make sure of it. Mildred Lewis Rutherford. Let's talk about her. That old bat actually wrote a manual for schools called a measuring rod to test textbooks and reference books. And you know what was in it? Rules. Literal rules for what could and couldn't be taught. Nothing that blamed the South, nothing that said slavery was cruel, nothing that called secession treason. She demanded that textbooks say that enslaved people were happy and loyal. And if they didn't, the United Daughters of the Confederacy threatened to get them banned. And you know who listened? McGraw-Hill. Yeah, that McGraw-Hill, the giant textbook publisher. They wanted Southern sales so badly they printed the Lost Cause lies. They sanitized slavery, downplayed racism. They turned enslavers into noble planters and erased Black resistance entirely. They printed the lies so well it became history class for generations. Carolyn Meriwether Goodlett, another name you should know. Founding president of the UDC, not some sweet Southern belle. She was a white supremacist organizing women to rewrite the past. They didn't just build statues, they built memory. They put monuments on courthouse lawns so Black people would have to walk past them to get justice. The monuments weren't about remembrance, they were a warning. Laura Martin Rose. This one literally wrote a book praising the Klan. The Ku Klux Klan or Invisible Empire. Guess who handed it out in schools? The UDC. They taught kids that the Klan were heroes, saving the South from Black empowerment. They called that heritage. That's just terrorism dressed up as nostalgia. They weren't some fringe group, they were a network. They lobbied school boards, they threatened teachers. They rated and approved textbooks. They made sure that the South, and by extension the whole country, learned a whitewashed, sanitized version of history. They didn't just preserve racism, they industrialized it. And don't think it stopped 100 years ago because those textbooks, they were still in schools in the 1970s, 80s, and at least when I went through. Generations learned from them. Generations repeated the lies. And that's why today you'll still hear people say, slavery wasn't that bad. It was about states' rights. Those statues are history. That's the UDC's work talking. So don't sugarcoat it. Name it. Mildred Rutherford, that old bat. Caroline Goodlett. Laura Martin Rose. McGraw-Hill. They built the lie. They sold it as heritage. They made sure generations believed it. And if we don't rip that lie out by the roots, we're just their messengers, still selling it for them.